at the Institute for Security Studies. Johan Burger joins us now from our Pretoria studios. Afternoon to you, Johan. So an increase, I beg your pardon, in crime. What's your assessment of what's happening there?
Well, if you look at the overall crime picture, then although it may create the impression that crime is coming down, I think it's misleading, because the types of crimes that show a decrease are mostly less serious offences and property-related crimes. I think what we are much more concerned about are the crimes, the serious and violent crimes, such as murder and attempted murder and the various forms of aggravated robbery, including house robberies that previously, in the previous year, showed a decrease, and of course car hijacking that for a number of years now were on the decrease. All of these are back on the increase, as well as truck hijacking and street robbery. So these are violent, serious and violent crimes. These are on the increase, and these are the crimes that threaten us more directly in terms of how we perceive our safety. So, I tend to look more at these increases than at the overall picture.
Does this tell us that police techniques are failing, or that criminals are becoming more brazen?
Well, it's perhaps a combination of both. There are some crimes that the police have very little control over, and that we cannot blame on the police, at least not on them alone. And murder and attempted murder, to a large extent, are examples of those. And of course, other interpersonal crimes such as rape and assault. These are caused by conditions outside of the control of the police. And it should, there should be a joint or collective responsibility in how we tackle those crimes. But the crimes where the police have a much more direct impact are crimes of aggravated robbery. And it is especially because of this reason that we are concerned about these increases. And it shows us that they are, in many ways, the police are failing. For example, in terms of crime intelligence, we know crime intelligence is a huge problem in the police service, or I should rather say a lack thereof. And I think this is contributing, along with other problems that the police are currently faced with, are some of the reasons why these crimes are now back on the increase.
One of the figures that you mentioned is that of that increase in robberies at residential premises, which increased by 3.6% over the past year. But overall, if we look at what's been happening over the past decade, there seems to be a 69% increase over that duration. Now, this must obviously be of great concern to South Africans, because that's when they're at home. That's when they should feel safe.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And this is what we do at the Institute. We do longitudinal analysis. We've been tracking these crime types over time. And initially, crimes such as house robbery increased by on average, between 30 and 40% a year. And of course, a number of very serious crimes are committed in the process. There are a number of these incidents where people are either killed or wounded or otherwise seriously injured or even raped. And so this causes a huge concern for ordinary citizens who fear that this might happen to them. Now, when 3 years ago, when this crime type started stabilizing, there was a whole lot of expectations that we have now reached the turning point and this would be coming down. And in the previous financial year, it did in fact show a decrease. So it's extremely disappointing and alarming that in this year's figures, there is another increase, so this crime type, along with some of the others, are going in absolutely the wrong direction.
Finally, Johan, the other statistic, of course, we're seeing now a decrease in sexual offences of 0.4%. What other interventions can police and, in fact, indeed, the criminal justice system as a whole take to decrease this even further? Well,
sexual offences, along with some of the other so-called interpersonal crimes or social fabric crimes are a problem for the police in terms of policing strategies. There are a number of social conditions that needs to be addressed, and for this reason the police will have to work closely with departments such as social development and other departments and even NGOs. But I think as far as the police are concerned, they have now re-established the so-called FCS units, the Family Violence, Child Abuse and Sexual Offences units, which I think will go a long way into strengthening the police's ability to deal with these crimes. But more than anything else, they should build on the confidence of the public to come forward and report these crimes to them so that they are properly investigated and that the perpetrators are identified and arrested. I think this is what the police should be doing now that they have the FCS units, should find a way of regaining the confidence of victims of those crimes into coming forward and working with the police.
Thank you so much for your time. Johan Burger is a senior researcher with the Institute for Security Studies.
News that moves. eNCA.com.